It's a pirate's life for Niku in this week's Star Wars Resistance.
How you get so big into food of this kind?
Hello and welcome into my spoiler review of this week's episode of Star Wars Resistance, The Mutiny. This is our last episode before the kind of big burst to the finish with the series, and it was pretty action-packed, so I'm going to be discussing the series at length from this point on, so you've been warned. In the start of this episode, we find the pirates have left the Colossus and they're off to do their own kind of mission of sorts. We don't necessarily know what's going on yet, but if we start with pirates and the episode is called Mutiny, one can kind of make a logical guess as to where the story is going. They meet up with a character named Sidon Ethano, who originally appeared in a short story called The Crimson Corsair and the Lost Treasure of Count Dooku, which was published in Tales from a Galaxy Far, Far Away, Aliens, which was a part of the lead-in to The Force Awakens. We saw the Crimson Corsair, Sidon, in the trailer for this season, and when I was kind of researching him, that's when I realized that this Aliens, like Tales from a Galaxy Far, Far Away Aliens book, was a book of short stories and not a guidebook. I didn't really get into it when The Force Awakens came out, even though I was reading a lot of canon material at the time, because I literally thought it was a guidebook of aliens and not a collection of short stories. So I have since read that short story, and it was really fun. I haven't read the others in the collection, I read just that one, but it was a fun little adventure, kind of a race to a treasure of sorts. So if you have interest in treasure hunting or in this character, you can definitely look into that if you want to read more. But this was a really fun connection and a good payoff to something that was a part of the original kind of canon releases before The Force Awakens. Now in this series that is going on after the release of The Rise of Skywalker, and canonically within the story set towards the end of the sequel trilogy time period. It's in that short story that he gains the possession of several battle droids, which would be the battle droids we saw in this episode. He also comes into contact with the clone trooper Kix, if you are familiar with him from Star Wars The Clone Wars. So again, really interesting story if that's something you want to look into, but as it stands, you don't necessarily need to know a lot about it to get what's going on in the episode, because he's just the guy at the beginning. But yeah, as I said, in this episode we get battle droids, and it's so fun to see these battle droids again. It's really just fun to see any kind of prequel tech going on in this time period so far away, and to really make the saga feel like it's all connected to other pieces. And it's something that makes sense that you would have recycled droids, like they wouldn't have all been decommissioned, and to kind of see them finding their way into black market deals. This is actually something that was in Legends as well. If you've read the novel Survivor's Quest by Timothy Zahn, which was a part of his kind of original 7-book Thrawn run in Legends before he started writing Thrawn for the new canon, Luke and his wife Mara Jade encounter droid Dakars, destroyer droids, and other such things from the Clone Wars era. So this is something fun to see make its way into current canon, because it was something that Legends canon was starting to have fun with before Legends canon shut down and became Legends. The interactions between Kragan and Sidon Ethano are interesting to see. You have Ethano, who is set up as being this really brisk, really gruff, really scary guy. You know, Kragan tries to bargain with him, and he just threatens him by, like, no, we're not going to bargain, this is the price. This both shows you this character, so if you've been waiting to see this character realized on screen, it creates this intense figure, but it also shows us something about Kragan. Kragan is tough, Kragan is smart, Kragan is able to figure out all of these things, but at the end of the day, he is not the toughest, he is not the smartest, he is not the most charismatic. He's just smart and tough and charismatic enough to have a band of pirates. He really could be outdone by a guy like Ethano. So basically what we have is this really cool canon connection that is also revealing something to us about this character that we are going to get to know better throughout this episode. So again, it's just a really effective use of reference. Anytime you can reward people who have been familiar with something, or in my case, make me familiar with something. I mean, obviously, I remember Ethano from showing up in The Force Awakens, even though he doesn't have a whole lot of a scene in the film. It's also nice for somebody like me who can go, oh, he's going to be in the show, I'm going to go look up the short story. So it's a really good reward / encouragement for getting you into new canon that doesn't serve as a gate to keep you from enjoying the episode, but while serving as this Easter egg, while serving as this kind of fan servicey thing, It's also teaching you something about the characters that we already know and already care about. So it's not just there taking up time for funsies. It's also serving a purpose. So this show is doing something very effective that even the films struggle with at a time, to bring you in and connect the dots in a way that makes the galaxy feel bigger, not smaller, and as a reward and not a detriment. And it was a fun way to open the episode. As our pirates are on their way back, we see Synara is talking to Doza. Doza is upset because the pirates left the Colossus when the Colossus is on lockdown. They conveniently didn't take Synara. Now Kragan didn't take his whole crew. Some of the pirates were left behind. So Synara would necessarily think that that's that suspicious, but we see her trying to bargain on the pirates' behalf. Synara has had this interesting relationship with the pirates where she's definitely on board with the Colossus, literally and figuratively. You know, she likes the people on the Colossus, she's friends with Kaz, she's friends with Kaz's friends, she wants to kind of be this good guy person. But now she's also dealing with the fact that she's still trying to help the pirates, and we will eventually figure out why towards the end of this episode. Seeing her in this position where she's talking to Doza, and see Doza respect her, was something really, really fun. Doza could just brush her off as this person who's just a part of the pirates, but he's recognizing her as her own person, and he's somebody, as captain of the Colossus, who will talk to, you know, a pirate first mate type of person. It was fun seeing those two have scenes together, and they also happen to be two of my favorite characters in the show, so I enjoyed seeing them chat. Kragan gets back, and it's a small thing, but a thing I really enjoyed. I like how he initially unloads his ship and then puts the droids into space and hides them out there. It just felt like a very piratey thing to do, a way to kind of like harken back to our idea of what like sea pirates on Earth would be and connect them to space pirates, that they would hide their illicit goods out in space where they're not necessarily going to be seen by Doza. Kragan is trying to play it cool with Doza, and he's like, hey, I was just trying to get you guys food, and Doza's like, yeah, I don't believe that for a second, I'm gonna keep an eye on you. So you see tensions are starting to rise. Here we have a parallel between Synara and Kaz pop up. So Synara is being kept out of the loop by Kragan with what's going on. Eventually Kragan would have her escorted out to the market so she doesn't see what's going on. Kragan is aware of her allegiances and how she wouldn't want to mutiny on the Colossus. Now, he easily could have just sent her on a spacewalk because he doesn't have to accept that kind of insubordination from his people, but doesn't want to do that, so he kind of gets her out of that space. And then we have Yeager and Doza talking to Neeku, and Kaz kind of happens upon them talking to Neeku. And here we see that Doza and Yeager don't use Kaz for this mission. We know now by the end of the episode that Neeku is spying. Kaz doesn't necessarily know that in this scene. I think that it's more than, you know, they don't want to use Kaz because of the reasons Doza gives, and they don't want to use Kaz because he's klutzier or whatever. I think they don't want to use Kaz because they know Kaz is too close to the pirates, mostly for being too close to Synara, and they don't necessarily trust him to be objective or trust him to want to spy on the pirates, you know, kind of a asking Anakin to spy on the Chancellor sort of situation. So they go to Neeku. Kaz is aware that things are afoot, Synara is aware that things are afoot, and we'll get back to them in a second. Neeku goes to talk to the pirates, claiming that he's just going to do a systems check. Kragan sees him, remembers him from the mission they went on to raid the Dreadnought, which was the second episode this season, and recruits Neeku to help fix the droids. Now, we're worried at this point that Neeku is getting roped into something and is getting tricked. We now know that Neeku is actually about to trick them, which is interesting to watch when you go through the episode again. But a fun little callback too is Neeku's like, oh yeah, I've always wanted to be a pirate, which is something he says in that Dreadnought episode. When they're all raiding the First Order ship, Neeku talks about how fun it could be to be a pirate, so it's fun to see that get brought back in, to see this season reference an early episode in this season and get that kind of payoff. Neeku is also excited by the super battle droids and the B-1 battle droid and is excited to work with them. I do find it interesting that Neeku doesn't immediately go off to Doza, that he really does play it all the way through and does actually fix the droids, because he could have not fixed them and tried to get off to Doza, but maybe he wouldn't have been able to because the pirates would have locked him up anyway. This is an episode where I kind of wonder how much of this was Neeku going along with it because he liked building the thing, and how much was Neeku really 3 steps ahead, being aware that he was going to get locked up regardless, considering he had a plan to have the B-1 come get them. I think that I'm going to lean towards Neeku being a little smarter than we would give him credit for. And that's why he went ahead and fixed the droids, and fixing the droids is ultimately a good thing because the Colossus does get that security force of the super battle droids by the end of the episode. I also liked the kind of correlation between Niku and the B-1, that the B-1 is somebody that the pirates immediately underestimate. They also immediately underestimate Niku, and Niku slowly teaches the B-1 how to be a mechanic, how to be an engineer, and how to kind of be a commander. And so you see Niku kind of passing on his Nikuism to this other B-1, and it's fun to see that. It's fun to see the B-1 have a personality. I thought that was just kind of a cute mentor-mentee relationship that I wasn't really expecting Niku to get in the series. As I mentioned, Kaz and Sonara are both kind of being excluded from all the plans that are going on. They meet up at Aunt Z's, and they start talking, and they realize more is really going on, and they get worried about Niku being with the pirates, so they go back. When they go back, they overhear the pirates talking about the mutiny. They want to help, but they get captured. It is at this point that Niku has already been captured because he did what Kragan wanted, so they all end up in a cargo crate together. I think the characters in the show spend more time in cargo crates locked up than they do in their own quarters sometimes, but they get caught, though not for long. As soon as the pirates have left, the B-1 saves the day. I think it's really cute watching his interactions with Niku, because he calls him captain at one point in the episode, and then later he calls him a commander, and then later we hear the B-1 referred to as a commander, so I kind of liked his growing appreciation of Niku, kind of growing in his rank and how he addresses Niku. I thought that was kind of a fun little thing within the show. But immediately the group now gets together. They go off to find Doza and Yeager. Doza and Yeager have been captured in the tower, and then they're sent back down to the hangar where they're going to kind of do the space version of walking the plank. Kaz and Sonara and Niku and the B-1 kind of go on this big wild goose chase to go up to the tower to find them, and then eventually find their way back into the pirates' lair. So at this point, the Colossus is in lockdown, the Aces are locked up in their quarters, several of the citizens of the Colossus are locked away, and Kragan is about to take over. Before we get to that final confrontation, we see Sonara and Kaz and Niku kind of held off in the hallway. The character Valik, who's voiced by Jennifer Hale, and Sonara face off, and Sonara says, why are you doing this? We've known each other since we were kids. And this is where we start to figure out a little bit more about Sonara. And we understand that she's been with these pirates for that amount of time. She's not a young person who's been there a year or two. She's grown up with these pirates, and her loyalty to them makes this kind of sense, because she would be turning her back on the only family she probably really knows, based off of what her full story is, and that she would care for somebody like Valik, and that there's been this tension for all these episodes of these people that she thought were better, and kind of realizing just how nasty they are, now that she's dealing with good people. When they were pirates, they were probably dealing with a lot of bad people, or maybe people that Sonara just never got the chance to know, but now seeing the pirates interact with her friends, she's aware of just how much of scallywags they really are. But they're able to escape. Niku has a moment where he gets to clonk somebody on the head, which is always fun, and they get in to stop Doza and Yeager from having to walk the space plank. Kragan and Doza are having a conversation. Kragan says, hey, if you'll call me captain, maybe I won't kill you. And we see that Kragan being called captain of the Colossus is something that's really important to him. Now, he probably still would have killed Doza, but we see that getting some kind of superficial respect from Doza is important to him, and neither Doza nor Yeager have any desire to give it to him. We also see that Kragan is not altogether that different from Doza himself, other than being meaner and nastier. Doza asks what's going to happen to the rest of the Colossus, and Kragan says if they stay in line, they can stay effectively, which is basically what Doza is doing. He had no problem even with the pirates staying, so long as the pirates stayed in line and didn't go against Doza. The difference is Doza would have had much better intentions than the pirates would have. So this is kind of a clash of leadership that really comes down to who do you like and who do you think is the better person to run the Colossus. At this point, the rest of our heroes show up, and they win the day because the B-1 is the true commander of the battle droids, which is something I thought might happen because that's something we'd seen in the Clone Wars. It was something we'd seen with the droids when they were active, that you would have the super battle droids that would go out and be on the battlefield, but it was usually the B-1s that were the commanders that kind of ordered the other droids around, unless it was like the tactician droid. So this was something I kind of saw coming, but in a good way. Like, sometimes something seems obvious, and then sometimes it's a guest that's informed on how the universe is supposed to work, and when the universe works the way it's supposed to work, it just feels so rewarding. Maybe some people thought that was cliche, but I really liked it. It felt like a payoff for understanding how battle droids work, and I liked that moment a lot. And then I just liked seeing, like I said before, Niku kind of had this mentor relationship with the B1 droid, and then you see the B1 step up and be like, yeah, I can be the commander of the droids. It was a really good moment there. The pirates get arrested. Doza thinks to just throw them in the brig. Synara suggests just taking away their weapons, kind of dismantling parts of the ship, and then leaving them off in space. That way they're not taking up resources on the ship. This is Synara kind of doing one final mercy to the pirates, getting them off the Colossus like they would like, but not in a way where they could come back and harass the Colossus necessarily. And she says her parting words to Kragan, saying, like, I don't owe you anymore, after he points out that he raised her. The planet she's from, Vancor, is something else we've seen in Star Wars The Clone Wars. This is the episode where Dooku is captured by Hondo, and then Anakin and Obi-Wan have to go get him back, which I think is even in the first season. And then the Boba Fett episodes, the first Boba Fett arc with Mace Windu, is also on Vancor. So that's the planet that Synara is from, and is clearly not, like, the best planet. And I kind of wonder, too, if maybe the one Weequay pirate, if he wasn't also from Vancor, and maybe used to be in Hondo's crew, but that's just speculation. I'm not really sure on that. But it's another cool connection, and another cool callback, and it's something where you either know the planet, and you can know that rich history, or you don't, and it's fine, it's just the name of the planet. But the pirates go off on their own way, Synara stays, and she has another conversation with Doza, who appreciates her and says that he understands that it's difficult to go against family. And Synara says that she found a new one that she likes a little bit better, basically. So it's this found family where she had a found family that wasn't great, and then she found a newfound family, which I like, because Star Wars has a lot of found family stories, but it's interesting to see this different dynamic of she actually had a found family, and it wasn't great, and so she found a new one. Kaz finding out that he wasn't the spy this time, Niku was a cute moment. Kaz freaking out, and then Niku being like, Kaz, I learned everything from you, that if you're just kind of like, pretend you're really incompetent, nobody takes you seriously, and I like that too. I thought it was a nice play on how much Niku respects and admires Kaz, to the point where he sees Kaz's faults as these great positives, which is a wonderful quality in Niku, and also really good comedic value, so I thought that played off really well as well. But that's where I'm going to leave this review today. Not necessarily because I don't have more to say, but because my voice is starting to go. I apologize that this review is later than I thought. Some of you know I just got back from vacation, and I came back from vacation and got sick. And I've been trying to do this review for like 2-3 days, and today was the first day I had any kind of energy to do it. So thank you for those of you who do wait on these every week. Not that I assume anyone does, but if you do wait on these every week, thank you for being patient as I get this review out. This weekend's should come out like in a timely manner. It'll be 2 episodes. There's going to be 2 episodes airing together. I will probably do one review of both episodes instead of reviewing them individually. But let me know what you thought about this episode in the comments. If you're not already, follow us on all of the things. We just hit the big 1K subscribers, which is really exciting, so we'll have more about that coming out soon. And until next time, keep it real and fly casual.
Cooking can be fun!